We're going to look at a Gibson Explorer project I just wrapped up. This is a late night at Guitar Quackery. You can see the neon sign is off. I don't know if you can see that, yeah. And some quackery happened right here. This is going to be for another video. But in this video, we have a Gibson Explorer. So don't go anywhere. We're going to watch it together. Limited edition Gibson Explorer Gothic. That's what we're going to look at. And we're going to look at it up close because I'm going to do what I call a full assessment. There's an old Chinese proverb that says, if it's not broken, don't fix it. And that's why I do these assessments, so that I know what to fix. And I also know what services to recommend. I like to give people options. Alright, so welcome back to Guitar Quackery, where we're about to do a full assessment. We have a Gibson right there. Some guy just left it here and says he wants a setup. Okay, setup. We'll do a setup. It's a Gibson, right? It says Gibson right there on the headstock. Can you see this? It's a bit dark. I think you can see it. I think it's a Les Paul, not sure. All guitars look the same to me. I'm told it's a limited edition, which is why there's a picture of Mr. Gibson here. Yeah, on the back of the headstock. And also, that's the reason why there's a special inlay on the 12th fret right here. It's a crescent with a star. No other inlays anywhere else on the fretboard. We do have side dots, but just no other inlays. Like I said, it's here for a setup and some other work. So he wants me to put a new pickup in the, he said in the bridge position. That's a Duncan. So that's the pickup that's going to go in the bridge position. I'm going to test the pickup before I install it, obviously, because I don't want to do all the work and then find out that it's a defective pickup, right? I want to test everything first. So let me show you this guitar from above. Looks nice, right? I am going to take some preliminary measurements before I do the setup. So I just want to examine the guitar. We're going to take a measurement of a neck relief. We're going to use a straight edge, feeler gauges, and first we are actually going to use a fret rocker. I'll show you why. So I do this on the bench, but it's important to place the neck rest as close to the body as possible because I don't want to add any additional relief as I'm taking my measurements. Right? That kind of makes sense. So here is a neck. Yeah, we see these things on guitars all the time. It's a neck, right? So these are the strings, and that's the neck. We are going to place the straight edge on the fretboard and measure the gap between the straight edge and the 8th fret. But before we do that, we want to make sure that the frets are even. So we're going to use the fret rocker. Let me pull it this way. And we are going to verify that the 8th fret is even, okay, with the rocker. So it's not rocking. And on the treble side, same thing. And we also want to check the adjacent frets. Yeah, which is the 7th fret and the 9th fret, okay? So now, we'll be using a straight edge and feeler gauges, these feeler gauges. Now, I already took the measurements, so I know what to expect. So here is a 14 1/1000ths of an inch feeler gauge. This is 16. Next one is 18, and then 20. So just remember that. So we place our straight edge on top of the fretboard and we hold it lightly so we don't push down. And now I will start with 14 1/1000ths on the 8th fret. It passes. Next one is 16 1/1000ths and it's passing. Next one is this one, 18 1/1000ths. I know it's not in focus, but trust me. And 18 1/1000 gets stuck. So the last one that passed through was this one, which is 16 1/1000ths of an inch. So we measure the relief on the bass side. Now I want to measure it on the treble side. So from above you can see it better. We'll put the straight edge here and we'll start with 16 1/1000. So now you can't see it. You're just going to have to take my word for it. Once again, we hold it lightly. Same fret, 8th fret, 16 1/1000ths, passes. Next one is 18 1/1000ths of an inch. It passes, but it's very tight, which means I don't expect the next one, which is 20, to pass. And let's check. And in fact, it does not pass. So now we know that the relief on the bass side is 16 1/1000ths of an inch, and on the treble side, it's 18 1/1000ths of an inch. Now, that's a little bit of a discrepancy, but it's no big deal. I am not going to do a level crown and polish, nothing like that, just because of a small discrepancy like this, because the frets are actually in good shape. Now, next thing we want to check is the nut. So here we have the nut, and I'm going to use a dial indicator to check the distance between the string and the first fret. Now, there's a few ways to do this. What I am going to do is push down on the 2nd fret first, and then measure the little gap that's left between the string and the 1st fret. Now, since we are using the 2nd fret as reference, we want to make sure that it is not uneven. And we also want to check the adjacent fret, which is the 3rd one. And in fact, it's all even. I already checked that before. Okay. So now we take our dial indicator, we place it on top of our string. We start with the string, for example, push down on the 2nd fret, and then measure the gap between the string and the 1st fret, right? The leftover gap. And here we see that it was quite high, right? That's the gap. It's way higher than it should be. Now, on the A string, we find that the gap is actually, it's okay, right? It could be a little bit lower. I wouldn't want it higher because I don't want the A string, which is on the bass side, to play sharp when we fret it down, right? So the D string, the gap is higher than on the A string, so we definitely want to file it a little bit. On the G string, we find that the gap is, well, it's too high. The B is also a little bit too high. So if I don't push down all the way, that's, okay. Sometimes it doesn't reset all the way. So we want just a little gap like this, okay? And finally, the E string. Let's refocus this camera. The E string right here. The gap is almost 0. There is, in fact, a little bit of a gap left. And I can show you this. If I fret down the string on the 2nd fret, we can pass this feeler gauge between the string and the 1st fret. So this is how we want it to be in an ideal world. It's always a little bit risky to file all the way down to bare minimum, but it can be done. Some people know how to do it. Those people get paid the big bucks. So next thing I want to look at is I want to look at the string slots through the microscope. And I'll show you why. This is the high E string right there. We can see that the string moves freely at the back end, but is tight at the front end. So now the string slot seems to be a little wider than it should be. Let's remove the string just momentarily. And we can see that the string was pushing down at the front end, and it just made an impression right there, but there's no contact at the back end. Okay, so let's put the string back nice and slow. We don't want to touch this string slot because it's already low enough, as low as it should be. Now here we have the B string. We have a similar situation. Plenty of clearance at the back end, but I guess it moves a little bit at the front end, but we are going to file it lower, so hopefully we can improve it a little bit. Now here we have our G string. Now there's something here that I noticed that I don't like, and it's this. So this, I believe, is a fragment from steel wool right there. Right, it is. So I think I see some fragments as well inside of the string slot right there. So that means that somebody at some point was using steel wool to polish the fretboard. The D string is quite tight at the front end, but there's still a little bit of clearance at the back end, which is good, right? So this is how we check our nut, right? So I am looking at under the microscope, and I just move the string back and forth, right, like that. Okay. So the A string is quite tight at the front and enough clearance at the back. We can also push it down like that, which is good. And the string, we already know that is way too high, so we definitely want to file it. Okay. There is something else that I noticed, but I need to show you what I mean at an angle. So I will use the other microscope for this purpose. And if I rotate the image like this a little bit, you can see that there is a gap between the nut and the fretboard. And I also happen to notice that there's a little bit of steel wool stuck inside of that gap. So we really want to fill this gap with ebony dust. And then, but first we want to remove all the steel wool particles, obviously, and then fill the gap and just improve the situation a little bit. Now, since I found steel wool particles around the nut, I really want to take a little extra time to examine the pickups. We are going to exchange the bridge pickup, but we are keeping the whatchamacallit, neck pickup. So why don't we look at that? Okay. So here we have the neck pickup, and as you can see, we have, in fact, plenty of steel wool particles stuck around the pole piece. Now that's the B string pole piece. and we do see the same situation. I'm sure the pickup is completely contaminated, which means I'm going to have to clean the pole pieces. So I typically use modeling clay to pick up all the steel wool particles because it's sticky. Yeah, you don't want to use a magnet, especially not on Alnico pickups, but you do want to get the steel wool particles off. So this is the end of the first part of the video, the assessment. Oh, excuse me. Guitar quackery. Oh, no, it's not ready yet. Well, I'm about to do it on video. You can just keep watching, and then I'll call you. Okay, thanks, bye. Now, the second part of the video is the actual work that I did. I'm not going to show you everything I did, because this video is getting long, so we'll skip the pickup. I'll kind of talk about it a little bit, and then, yeah. So, here we go. The guitar is on the bench. I'm going to file the nut slots. So, let's have a look at that. First, I want to make sure that this fret is not uneven, which I already checked with the fret rocker all across the fretboard, and it's fine, so I can put this away. Next, I want to measure, this fret's height. So let's do it. Here, with the step gauge, you can see that it hits the 1.4 millimeters here. I can kind of force it over the fret, but then I can feel a little bit of rocking that does not show up on camera. So I'm going to call it 1.5 to be on the safe side. I don't want to file this lower than 1.5 when I am using the step gauge to measure. On this string, 1.5 and 1.4 does not pass, so I'm going to call it 1.5. It's important to measure all the frets right under the strings. So I have the same situation here. It's almost down to 1.4, but it's a little bit more, so I call it 1.5. Here on the G string, 1.5. On the B string, it easily goes over that 1.4 step, but not over the 1.3. So on the B string, the height is 1.3 millimeters. I'm not even going to bother measuring the E string since we're not filing it. All right, so we are going to start with this string over here. And we are going to use, obviously, like I always do, the microscope to do all the fine work. So, removing the string, and now we want to measure the height of this from the fretboard. So, we said 1.5, right? So, we start at 1.5, and we see that the bottom here wiggles. We step down to 1.6, and here is where the step gauge is giving me a little trouble because it's hitting it here. But nevertheless, I will know when I hit 1.6. So let's do this job. With a 46 gauge file, I can start filing the string slot. We can look at the string slot through the microscope and just make an initial pass. This shows me the shape of the string slot. Maybe a little more focus here. So as I file, I rest my my middle finger here on the string, and it acts as a guide. The string acts as a guide, and as I change the position of the file, you will notice that the file goes down like that. So I am naturally making this string slot curved. So let's do that. Okay. Now we clean up that string slot and take a measurement. We start with 1.5, wiggles, down to 1.6, still wiggles. So we can safely file a little bit more. I'm also going to have to clean up the file at some point, but it's not clogged up yet. Okay, clean up the front here. And now we take a measurement. Hold on. You clean up. 1.5 millimeters. It wiggles. 1.6 still wiggling. We need to file a little bit deeper. Okay. So here is what it looks like through the microscope. And then we take the step gauge. It wiggles at 1.5, 1.6 here. No more. So this is what we want to see. 1.6, it's touching down, but at 1.5, it wiggles. And remember, this is actually lower than 1.5, so I can file down a little bit further. Now I file more lightly, okay? And as you see, I also rotate the file a little bit, but I'm barely pressing down. Clean up the front. This is what I'm doing to clean up the file. And now we clean up the string slot and take a measurement. 1.5 is still slightly higher, right? But it's getting very close. All right. A little bit more. Okay, I'm also using the microscope. I look through the eyepieces, and now we want to okay, so there we have it, and we can do a quick tap test. Now this is probably as low as I want to get it. I am obviously going to take a measurement. For the measurement, I'm going to use one of my favorite tools, which is the dial indicator. Okay. So here we go. Need to move the microscope out of the way. And with the dial indicator resting on the E string, I touch down on the second fret and I push down. It's barely moving, okay? But I do have a little space there. So this is going to be perfect. Sometimes you might leave a gap that's so small that the dial indicator cannot even pick it up. And that's not because the dial indicator is broken, it's because the plunger or the probe of the dial indicator also has its weight, obviously. And sometimes when the gap between the string and the fret is so minimal,
it takes only a little bit of weight for that gap to close all the way down. And in that case, you are not going to get a read with the dial indicator. So this is something that happened on the A string as I was filing it, and it almost happened on the low E string, as you could see. So in that case, you need to confirm that you still have a gap using a feeler gauge, a very thin one.
I have a set of feeler gauges, metric ones, and the thinnest one is onion skin thickness. So I want to make sure that I do have that space, and it is passing. So both of these string slots are filed down to the bare minimum. So to be honest, I'm really happy with that.
This is not a nut filing video, so I'm going to skip showing some of the repetitive work I had to do. But if you paid attention to the first part of this video, the assessment, then you should remember that we noticed some detail about the treble side string slots on this nut. And we said that we would have a closer look at that. Now, speaking of taking a closer look, I happen to have a microscope.
So on this, as you recall, this string was cut kind of, string slot was cut kind of flat at the factory, right? So perhaps we want to round it off at the bottom, but it's kind of low at the back end, right? So we really got to be careful not to file this part too low. So why don't we do our initial pass and check. I think this looks pretty good. Let's take a measurement. It is in fact already at 1.5. So we hopefully did not file it too low.
I've ruined a lot of guitar nuts by trying to file the string slots down as low as it can go, and then filing just a little bit too low. And usually that happens on the last string slot that I need to file. So on this nut, as you recall, we said we would not file the high E string slot because they're already low enough. So the last string slot that I filed on this nut is the B string. So now the question is, did I get it right?
And we do have a small gap. So I was in fact lucky, I guess. Maybe experience had something to do with it as well. I'm done with the step gauge, and I'm done with the files. So I will clean up this at some later time. Now I can remove the strings, and then I can polish the frets, take care of a few uneven frets, and do a full setup on the guitar.
Yeah, but this is not a setup video, so I'll only show you the highlights.
Since we're not changing string gauges, I'm going to do a rough setup with the old strings on. I also kept the old strings on to file the string slots, right? So the old strings are still on because I don't want to fatigue the new strings too much. I want to do as much work as I can with the old strings on. So here we go. We already took a measurement of the relief, as you recall. So now we need to remove the D string with this kind of headstock and just tighten the truss rod a little bit. I know I might get criticized for doing my truss rod adjustments on the bench instead of doing it in playing position and for taking my relief measurements on the bench. But I have my reasons, and I'll make another video about that some other time, and then we can discuss it separately. But anyway, I tightened the truss rod little by little, and each time I take a measurement until I get the relief that I want. Okay, so it's 6 on this side, and I believe it's going to be maybe 8 on that side. Let's see, 6, 8. Oh, look at that, 11 is even passing. So, yeah, we have a little bit of a extra discrepancy I was not expecting. So it's a 6. So this might be 7, and then we have 11 on the other side. Well, it is what it is. We're just going to have to work with it. Now, there is no need to do a full level crown polish, but I do want to check the height of the strings on both sides. It's difficult for me to turn the camera in this position, so I will just tell you what it is. On the treble side, we have 52, and on the bass side, we have 58. So we do need to raise those strings a little bit. Here we use specialized tools to do that, which I will show you. This is a Gibson Tune-o-matic bridge jack. Okay, I'll show you how it works. So if we want to raise this side, we basically jack it up a little bit, and now we can freely turn this thumb wheel. Okay, we need to jack it up on the treble side as well, just like that. And let's make sure it goes up a little bit. Okay, so it's hitting this knob here. So I guess we need to remove it. Okay. Now we can, now we can jack it up a little bit. And we need to go clockwise a notch. And now we take another measurement. So here, using the string gauge. As you can see, I am taking the measurements of the string height, which is what we call the action, with the guitar held in playing position. Now, we're still just roughing it in. Those are the old strings on the guitar, so I'm not even taking the time to fine-tune anything. Then, with the old strings on, I'm going to rough in the intonation. And that, just to make my life easier, I will do it on the bench. And in fact, I'm not going to dial in the exact intonation. I'm going to make it play a little more flat. And that's because when I put the actual strings on the guitar, the final strings, I am going to move the saddles towards the neck a little bit so that I don't create a kink on the string in the playable area of the string. Okay, and now the octave is sharp. So with the octave being sharp, I need to move the saddle away from the neck. I will show you that. So here's the high E saddle. And now let's talk about this. So this is where the string is kinked over the saddle. I need to move the saddle in this direction, which means now there will be a kink in the playable area of the string, which is yet a good reason not to start doing this with a new strings on, right? So I want to dial clockwise so that the saddle goes back in this direction.
Once again, I'm just roughing it in just to get a sense of the guitar. On some two-nomatic bridges, some of the saddles might need to be flipped around, and this is one of the reasons why I do it with the old strings on, just so that I know if I'm going to have to flip any of the saddles once I remove the strings. Now, this bridge also had to be cleaned.
To clean this bridge, or these type of bridges, I use one of those brushes. I actually had to cut the bristles short. I think this is a Home Depot item, but the bristles are too long. You want them to be stiff. And I use, obviously, the Guitar Quackery guitar setup elixir, all right? And, you know, just a cloth. So all I do is this, and spray just a little bit. Maybe let it soak a little bit and clean. If I have to clean gold hardware or chrome or nickel, I might use other tricks as well. But it looks like this will work just fine. Okay. And now I just finish it off this way. Yeah. This looks good to me. Right. We want to clean the tailpiece as well. This is already soaked a little bit with the elixir, and I think it's fine if I just do this.
And I'm done with my rough setup. So the final setup will be done with the actual new strings on the guitar, and that's when I'm going to do all the fine tuning. Now, in this video, I just want to focus on some aspects of this job that were just specific to this guitar. As you recall, we did discover another detail, interesting detail, during the assessment.
As you recall, we found some tiny steel wool fragments stuck in the little crack between the nut and the fretboard. We want to remove them. We can see them if I rotate a little bit right there. So let's try with the magnet. Interesting. They're not moving. But I really believe that those are, oh, here, it's getting attracted. All right. They're coming out. So perhaps it would be a good idea to use a fragment from a string to dig out this piece of steel wool. As you can see, it's a little bit time consuming, but I really want to remove it because I don't like to see that on guitars. So maybe with tweezers. I think it's still there, deep inside. Yeah, I'm not too happy with this right now. I'm not too sure what I'm seeing. There is something there, but I can't get inside with anything. This is a 9-gauge string fragment. Oh, it does fit inside. And here it comes. Okay. So I think we can perhaps zoom out a little bit so we can see better the actual removal with the magnet. It's gonna jump out, I guess. You can see how it's getting attracted to the magnet. Okay. Okay. I don't know if there's any left. So I'm also cleaning off the steel wool particles from the magnet. I can use, well, I can see them right here. So for now, I'm just going to push them in this direction and just try to remove as much as I can. Obviously, I can also use, if I take this away, I can use a feeler gauge, perhaps. So let's see if that does anything. So this cuts through this adhesive, whatever that is, filler. Okay. And now we can go back with a magnet. Okay. So I'm going to want to examine this really closely. Maybe I don't need to show you the entire procedure. But yeah, so I also inspect the nut. There seems to be something here at the back end, something red. It's some kind of red fiber. I don't know what that is. I think I want to remove this filler here. I want a clean slate because I'm going to be filling this crack with my own recipe. Okay? Yeah. So, there we have it. I'm going to mix up a little bit of, well, I don't know yet. I need to do some color matching. Ebony dust is a choice, but I don't want to mix it with super glue because I don't want the super glue to stick to the nut. I want it to be removable. I mean, I want to be able to remove the nut at some point, or make sure that somebody else in the future can remove the nut. I could also use some black dye. No, not dye. Well, it depends what I'm mixing. If I mix joint compound, I could dye it black and then add some black pigment. I could also combine black pigment, black dye, and ebony dust. Just do a little color matching and fill it. I just need to fill the surface so that it's not an open crack, and it'll be okay.
We're 44 minutes into this video. You know what that means, right? If you're still watching, it means you like it. So don't forget to click like, share, and subscribe. Thank you very much. Now, let's move on.
I'm going to use all-purpose joint compound. This is a construction material. It's not the same as plaster, but this is what I'm going to use to mix up that filler. Okay, so here's the joint compound. I have black dye, which will dye it black. I have black pigment, which will add particles of pigment to the joint compound, which will first be dyed black. And then I also have ebony dust. So let's start mixing. It takes just a little bit. So this is already quite black. To be honest, I don't even think we need to add any pigment or ebony dust. But I do have it right here, so why not? Okay. I really feel it's completely redundant at this point. It does make an interesting YouTube video. Okay. And why not ebony dust? I feel ebony dust is going to help with the texture once this is all dried up. So this is why I'm putting it. It's such a small area that it really doesn't matter, in my opinion. Okay, I'll put a little more. Okay. Now, where do you get ebony dust? Well, every now and then I do a bridge shave, so I just save it. Yeah. Acoustic guitar bridge shave. That's where this ebony dust came from. Okay, so this is now well mixed. By the way, this is just a piece of Teflon. Now I elevated the back of the guitar, and I also taped off the nut. You can see this here. So this is taped off. I'm going to be looking through the microscope as I fill it, and you will also be watching this. Okay, so let's look through the microscope. I do have a wider field of view through the actual optical system when I look with my eyes. And just take a little bit of filler. Let's see what happens. I don't need to push it in all the way to the bottom. It's perfectly fine if it's just slightly deeper than the actual surface. So all I'm really doing is with this palette knife, or maybe it's called a spatula, I don't really know. I'm just pushing it in, and then I will clean this up. So maybe I can even start cleaning now before it gets too dry. And I think I'm pretty much done with this. Yeah. Let's see through the microscope again. Okay, so I can improve here a little bit. Maybe I go there with a blade. just to remove that. Well, let me try with this palette knife. Okay, we're going to clean and polish the fretboard anyway, so I'm not too worried. So I will let this dry. Perhaps I should also mention I will remove this tape, obviously. Okay. I want it to dry overnight before I do any extra work on this fretboard.
I lied to you. I didn't wait overnight. I just waited a couple of hours and then I taped off the nut and that little repair area and I worked on the fretboard. But if you remember from the assessment part of this video, we also discovered some fragments of steel wool trapped around the pole pieces of the pickups.
I use modeling clay, just a little piece of it, to remove steel wool from the pickups. So I just do it under the microscope, just like that. Pick up the pieces. Yeah, and you know, I will check again just to make sure that everything is has been removed. Here we can see some particles right there, so I just pick them up. Sometimes I need to use some additional tools, like here maybe my favorite multi-tool, just to go around, make sure that they're not stuck inside, and then just remove everything. This can take a while. I'm only going to service the neck pickup because the bridge pickup will be replaced.
I'm not going to show you the pickup replacement work. It's not even very interesting. But I did test the pickup before and after, and here's the test.
The ultimate test is obviously the performance test. We don't have strings on, but that's okay. We can use a piece of metal, plug it in, crank it up. Let's hear it. Okay.
Once again, I always test new components before I do the next step of the job. The next step in this case would be to put the strings on. So now, since the pickup did work, I did put the strings on. And I did the final setup on the guitar, which I already told you I'm not going to show you in this video. And then I was basically done.
I'm really happy with the way this came out, the nut. I'll do a quick tap test. You can see how there's very little space between the shadow and the string, but every string does have a little space. I did not touch the E string, as you recall. Yep. So one more project on the same guitar. This. So the customer wants strap locks.
Yeah, but we got to wrap it up. It's been a long video already. So I'm not going to show you how to install the strap locks. Not in this video. There'll be another video, right? Which you will obviously not miss because you are about to click the subscribe button, unless you've done it already. So now we want to know, how does the guitar sound with the new pickup?
Let's play bridge pickup. Neck pickup. Yeah, so technically speaking, I'm not done yet because I want to do this last pickup height adjustment with the customer. Obviously, he changed the pickup because he had something in mind, so we're just going to do that together. But overall, everything came out good. There is a small discrepancy in the relief. So we have 11 1,000ths on the treble side, 6 1,000ths on the bass side. So I raised the bass side a little bit higher. I put the treble side to 61 thousandths of an inch and this to 85. Okay, bass side, which is good. I like it that way anyway. But that's because the relief couldn't be adjusted quite on spec, I guess.
I managed to keep this video under 1 hour, 55 minutes and counting. I have to say a few more things, right? Please, if you like this video, if you feel that there was any useful information in it, and you want YouTube to recommend this kind of content to you in the future, just click the like, share, and subscribe buttons. Okay, thank you. Now, if you want to buy me a coffee, you can click the link below that says buy me a coffee. You can also buy some Guitar Quackery merch. There's a link for that. And don't forget to check out the other channel. You know about that one, right? That's the New York City Department of Guitar Maintenance and Repairs. There's a link below, but you can also search for Department of Guitars on YouTube. You'll find it. Now, I'll see you soon.